UFC Vegas 99, Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. This is the Funkin' Flex preview and prediction show. Thank you all for joining me. If you don't mind, smash the like button, hit subscribe. We have one of the biggest fight cards of the year coming up next week. UFC 308, Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. The whole card is stacked. Hamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. Bobby Knuckles, we're going to see if he can get it done again. I'm just so excited for that card, followed by UFC Vegas 100. A lot of great stuff coming up. So if you don't mind, hit the subscribe. Go ahead, turn on the post notifications coming up. These are going to be two of my biggest betting cards of the year, and you guys aren't going to want to miss these videos. For now, we do have this breakdown for UFC Vegas 99. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. First fight of the night, we have Austin Lane versus Robilis Despain. I'm not going to sugarcoat this one bit. This is a nightmare matchup for Austin Lane. As a former NFL player, he uses his athleticism to dominate early on in the fights and just overwhelm people with pressure. The problem with that is he does end up getting knocked out very often. 5 knockouts on his professional record, and that is where Robilis Despain's strength lies, as he catches people early on in the fight, which makes the obvious play in my eyes, Robilis Despain by KO early on, round 1, maybe sprinkle a little round 2, but I really just think he's going to get him out of there early. Maybe Austin Lane comes out, conserves his energy a little bit more, and tries to take Robilis into deeper waters where he struggled in his UFC debut, but I just don't see Austin Lane getting out of the first round. I think the UFC has set up Robilis Despain to get that early knockout. He's an exciting fighter, and honestly, the heavyweight division needs as much excitement as it can get right now. Give me Robilis Despain as the pick. Second fight of the night, we have Melissa Martinez versus Elise Ardalian. For this one, the pick is Melissa Martinez, guys. I just haven't been impressed with anything that I've seen from Elise Ardalian, and I know it's been 2 years off for Melissa Martinez, but she is the quicker and better striker on the feet. I do think that she'll be able to stuff the takedowns and keep Ardalian in a place where she's on the back foot the whole fight. She's good at getting in and out, distance management. I know that we've seen some suspect grappling from Melissa Martinez, but again, Elise Ardalian just hasn't shown me anything that's a concern. I think Martinez will be able to stay on the feet, and for that, I'm going her probably by a boring split decision will be the pick. Either way, I'm probably not going to bet this fight. Just the 2-year layoff is concerning for me, but for the pick's sake, I am going Melissa Martinez. The third fight of the night, we have Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed. Like I mentioned in Elise Reed's last fight, she did beat Melissa Martinez, and she was looking better in grappling than we have seen her before. If you know anything about Elise Reed, she is pretty much just a pure striker. And now I don't know if that says that Melissa Martinez's game is just so bad on the ground, or if Elise Reed is starting to develop something. On the other side of this fight, Jessica Penne, we really know what we're getting. She's been in the UFC since 2014 after she won the Ultimate Fighter finale by a split decision, and pretty much since then, that has been the story of her career. While she has faced a lot of the top contenders in this division, she has consistently struggled. And what I don't like to see is the submission in her last fight out against Tabitha Ricci. Now, I know Tabitha Ricci does have a pretty nasty ground game, but that being said, Jessica Penne's strength when she was winning and dominating was her ground and grappling. And I think that as she gets older, a 41-year-old Jessica Penne may struggle against Elise Reed, who's very good on striking and also may be developing a good ground game. For that purpose, I am going to go with Elise Reed as my pick. Again, not a fight that I'm crazy about betting on. I'm probably going to take it a little bit lighter on this card. Like I said, we have multiple very exciting cards coming up over the next month or two. So let's go ahead and just agree to save some of our units and not waste them on these lower quality women's MMA bouts. Which transitions us to our next fight perfectly. We have a matchup between Jocelyn Edwards versus Tamaris Vidal. The pick for this one, guys, for me is going to be Jocelyn Edwards. I just think that her veteran experience is going to carry her against a Tamaris Vidal who has not looked very impressive to me in the few fights that I've seen her in MMA. That being said, minus 260 odds is absolutely absurd because I'm not going to sit here and sell Jocelyn Edwards like she's worthy of a near minus 3-1 favorite. I do think that she is the clear pick in this fight, but I cannot lay that much on her. I may be looking for a round 2-3 finish, but even the decision at even money just really isn't worth playing to me. I may sprinkle it in some parlays. But that being said, Jocelyn Edwards is the pick. I don't need to keep reminding you guys about how this card just isn't really great from a betting perspective. But I know y'all still want the picks either way. So Jocelyn Edwards it is. Next fight, we have Brad Katona versus Gene Matsumoto. Now, this fight is actually a sleeper in the mix of all these doozies that we have here. I'm actually really excited to see this matchup. Brad Katona is the good veteran fighter who many people don't like because he does have a slightly boring style. I personally like to watch him fight. He's very well rounded, but he does get a lot of comparisons to the Bilal Muhammad kind of hold you in one place spot or get the dominant position and not give it up kind of style. Where on the other hand, we have a Gene Matsumoto who's a very young, exciting finisher. He's got KOs and submissions in his arsenal, and he is 15-0 coming into this matchup, which has earned him a minus 260 money line on the books. And guys, I hate to be the one to come out and say it again, but there is just no way that he deserves to be a 3-1, near 3-1 favorite against Brad Katona. Well, Brad Katona's career hasn't necessarily been a storybook one. He does seem to win fights and win them often and consistently, especially in the second run that he's on in the UFC. Now, he does have that loss to Garrett Armfield earlier this year, which wasn't looking great on paper, especially when you look at what Brady Highstand was able to do to him at the end of the third, or the end of the fight in the third. It just really makes you wonder why Brad Katona doesn't look for those finishes. Sometimes he's just comfortable hanging in those positions where he gets compromised, which is why my pick will be Gene Matsumoto. But that being said, this screams to me a position where one of these hard veterans gives a tough test to a fighter who's climbing the rankings faster than he should be. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Katona wins a decision here. I don't see him finishing Gene Matsumoto. If it is anything, maybe a late KO or sub third round, if anything. But I could see Brad Katona putting him in positions where he's compromised for an extended period of time and he just doesn't know how to get out. We have seen him show good grappling on the ground in Matsumoto, but what does he look like when he's pinned up against the cage? Muay Thai fighter, I should see him show the trips and elbows and knees, which is why I'm giving him as a pick. But the near 3-1 favorite is crazy, guys. Y'all are stacking up too many parlays and blowing up these favorites way out of proportion that you're going to make me sprinkle a little bit of money on the underdog and Brad Katona. But not to confuse y'all for the pick's sakes, and if anyone's keeping record on me, I'm going Gene Matsumoto, but don't be surprised if Brad Katona wins this fight. Next fight, we have a flyweight matchup between Mateus Nicolau and Asu Almabayev. For this fight, guys, I'm going Mateus Nicolau, which may surprise some. Again, I don't know why Asu Almabayev is a 2-1 favorite. Even with his 20-2 record, we have seen a lot of flaws from Asu Almabayev. He generally relies on his great grappling skill set to dominate certain positions, and I just don't think Mateus Nicolau is going to let him do that. He also has a very good ground game. He's never been finished on the ground. Plus, he seems to have a sneaky KO skill set for the flyweight division, especially for the flyweight division. With his KO over Matt Schnell, that was impressive to me. Now, I know Matt Schnell does get chinned a lot, but even in the fights where Mateus Nicolau has been knocked out in his last two against Alex Perez and who was the one before that, Brandon Royval, he's looking good in those fights. The Brandon Royval one was pretty early on, but Asu Almabayev does not have that kind of skill set where he's just a fear of putting away Mateus Nicolau early unless it's on the ground. And like I said, I think Nicolau's game is just too strong. I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns and get out of any compromising positions on the ground. I do think that he catches Asu Almabayev's chin here. I know that we've only seen him knock out Tagir Ulanbekov, but I think Mateus Nicolau could find a year. I'm not saying that he's anywhere near the same skill set or level of caliber fighter that Tagir Ulanbekov is, but I do see Nicolau with his KO potential and with the damage that he can do on the feet as the pick for this fight. This is one that I probably will be betting on as an underdog, maybe a little KO decision sprinkle. But that's my pick, Mateus Nicolau. That brings us to our first fight on the main card. We have a featherweight matchup in two veterans with Darren Elkins and Daniel Pineda. For this fight, it's going to be tough to give a pick. I think I am leaning towards Darren Elkins. I think just over his career, he's shown the higher fight IQ and does deserve to be a slight favorite with his better record. But that being said, Daniel Pineda, 28-16, all 28 of his victories coming as finishes. He's definitely a dangerous fighter. But the one betting standpoint that really sticks out to me, and not that this is my betting video, but I do see Darren Elkins and Daniel Pineda going under. I think that this is under a 1.5 rounder for sure. Two aging fighters, both of them are going to be looking to get them out of there early. That being said, I'm going to lean towards Darren Elkins as my pick. Team Alpha Male, I think that he's just going to come in with the better game plan and try to survive the finish from Daniel Pineda. We may see an early gas from Pineda if he's trying to get that finish in a desperation in the first round. And I think Darren Elkins is going to know what to do, has the well-rounded skill set to either get the finish with his hands and feet or whether it needs to be a grappling exchange on the ground. We've seen Pineda finished both ways. So give me Darren Elkins as the pick. Bringing us to our second fight on the main card, we have Brady Heistand versus Jake Hadley. This is a matchup I'm actually very excited for in the bantamweight division. Two good prospects, both young, 25 versus 28. I was really impressed with Heistand and the level of whooping he was able to take from Garrett Armfield and still able to find that submission finish at the end of the fight. I really do think Brady Heistand has a little bit of a dog in him that's going to be able to bark and scare off some of this bantamweight division from coming at him as hard as they do early. I think a game plan against Brady Heistand after you have that kind of performance needs to be one that's prepared to go into later round and not one that's just looking to get him out of there early. Now, Jake Hadley, even though he has an 11-3 record, he's only 3-3 when it comes to decisions, and we've seen him lose his most recent ones. And while I'm not going to sleep on his overall skill set, he can get it done by knockout or submission. He has good grappling, and I do think that Jake Hadley even is the better striker here. My pick is going to be Brady Heistand because I just don't see the same level of dog that I see in Brady Heistand. I think that this fight is going to go over, and I think it may even go the distance. And that being said, I'm going to go Brady Heistand, the guy who's going to be there, fresher at the end of the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Hadley does a little bit more damage on the feet and is able to get the victory that way. But my initial pick, I'm leaning towards Brady Heistand to get this done. That brings us to our featured fight of the night. We have a flyweight matchup between Charles Johnson and Suma Derji. My pick for this one, guys, is Charles Johnson. He really showed me everything I needed to see in his last performance against Joshua Van. I do think that he's just in a flow right now, and nothing against Suma Derji, but I just don't think that he's going to be able to hang with the quick boxing of Charles Johnson. His distance management and quick hands, the way he can get in and out of positions and performs very well in the clinch, just gives a lot of people at this division problems, especially when he doesn't get put away very easily. I think Suma Derji's path to victory is on the ground in this one, but that being said, Charles Johnson has great jiu-jitsu too. I think that Charles Johnson is an actual rightful favorite to be 2-1 right now, but time will tell, guys. Right now, the pick is Charles Johnson. Give me Charles Johnson by decision or even a late KO. Moving on to our co-main event, we have a matchup between Rob Font and Kyler Phillips. And this is another one, guys, that I'm not going to sugarcoat it all for you. The only path to victory that old Rob Font has is by KO. Kyler Phillips is winning 7 out of his last 8 fights. His only last 2 losses are a majority decision and a split decision. He is just a very well-rounded skill set with 5 KOs and 2 submissions in his 12-2 record. He's looked very impressive to me. Now, Rob Font, 3-1 underdog, is a little bit enticing, especially if we can get a look at those round 1 KO numbers. But I just don't see Kyler Phillips being put away like that. I think he dominates this fight. I think that he holds him to the ground if he needs to, gets nasty elbows in, ground and pound. He can beat him up on the feet. I really could see this being a victory in any form for Kyler Phillips, whether it's KO, sub, decision. He can get it done anywhere. And Rob Font's only path to victory for this fight is by KO. So that being said, give me the more well-rounded skill set fighter who's still in his athletic prime, and Kyler Phillips for the pick in this co-main event. Moving to our main event in this one, guys, we have an awesome matchup in the middleweight division between Anthony Hernandez and Michel Pereira. Whoever wins this one is going to be going for a top 5 spot in the middleweight division, and honestly, we're not going wrong with either one of these guys. Michel Pereira has been on an absolute tear in the middleweight division since he switched over his last 3 fights, getting finishes in all 3 within like 60 seconds of each fight. It's just been absolutely crazy to watch him walk through people that have, put up a good fight against like Ihor Potieria, who just put up a good fight against Cesar Almeida. Michel Pereira subbed him in a minute. Now, granted, Cesar Almeida's skill set isn't the same as Michel Pereira, who's clearly a very well-rounded fighter in his 31-11 record. Over 42 pro MMA fights, he has shown to be developed everywhere. The one thing I do worry about is his cardio. And even Anthony Hernandez is coming out saying it himself, I just got to survive early on, and then I'm going to make him look bad as the fight goes later. But the question is the cardio problems that we've seen from Michel Pereira in his past, is that because he was cutting all the way down to 170? I mean, even when he was fighting at 170, he still looked massive. Coming in at 186 when he fights middleweight now, still getting that pound over. You can tell he's cutting weight still. Those extra 15 pounds may have taken a lot of cardio out of him. So we'll have to see. This will be a great test. For the picks purposes, I'm going Anthony Hernandez. I just have been really impressed in his last few performances, especially over someone like Roman Kopylov. To dominate him on the ground is really impressive after we saw Roman Kopylov dominate Cesar Almeida on the ground. We show that he does have that skill set, and that Anthony Hernandez was just making him look bad. He was beating him on the feet. There was a few moments where Kopylov did have him compromise positions, but Anthony Hernandez doesn't lose early in fights, and that's where Michel Pereira wins. So I'm going to go with the strengths in Anthony Hernandez outweighing, the weaknesses that he has, and I guess we're just going to have to see what goes on with this. Either way, I'm going to be excited, guys. I probably won't have a ton of money on this main event. If anything, what I would do is sprinkle a little bit early on Michel Pereira, maybe round 1, 2 Pereira, and 3, 4, 5 on Anthony Hernandez. But even that round 2 could be dicey. I could see either fighter getting a dub in that round. The gist of it is, guys, I do think that this fight's gonna finish inside the distance. Like I said, play it 1, 2 Pereira, 3, 4, 5 Hernandez for the picks purposes and for the video. I will go Anthony Hernandez as my pick. But like I said, either way, we're not going wrong with this, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. I do apologize for maybe a little sloppiness in the video this week. We did have a big hurricane run through my state, and it has just been a disaster watching everyone kind of struggle with it and clean up the pieces. But always much love to you guys in this community that I'm building, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the video next week. Hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications. You're not going to want to miss what I got coming up here. And these next 2 cards, we're really about to print some money. So get some rest this week. There are a couple great matchups. We have an amazing main event this upcoming week. But really, we got a lot to look forward to coming into the end of October and beginning of November. But much love as always, guys. Y'all have a great rest of your week. See y'all next week.